In this lecture, we will discover methods. Every developer must master methods. Let's jump into it. For the first time, I'm writing something outside my main method. As you know, we are having a pair of curly braces to know where my class method is. And I have a pair of curly braces also for my main method. So as you can see, I wrote a method inside my class methods, so inside the main pair of curly braces, but outside my main method, because I am after in the sequence the closing curly brace. This is really important to understand it. So as we are starting the concept of object, I'm not going to explain you this expression because it will be really weird for you, but for those who know already objects, public static will let me use this method in this class without having to instantiate an object of the class methods I'm in already. Yeah, I know, this is a bit complex. Anyway, so for the beginning, for now, you just have to use this public static and write it outside the main method, but inside the class methods, all right? Int is the type of the return I will expect in this case. By the way, a method is an expression you will call, a block of code you will call when you need something to be done. But in some case, you want something in return. So in this case, when I will call my method, I will have a variable, an expression of type int in return. I could wrote here float, string, any kind of object. But let's stick to something simple for the beginning. When I'm going to call this method getAge, I'm going to have an int in return. By the way, this is why I got to write at the end or somewhere in my method the keyword return, because if I'm writing here a type of return, I got to write return. If I don't want something in return, I will have to write void in Java. And when I'm writing void, I won't write the keyword return because obviously my method will not return anything. Anyway, in this case, I choose an int as a return type and I wrote return. GetAge is the name of my method. It is in camel case, as you can see, the first letter is a lowercase and the first word inside it will be capitalized letter. So GetAge with an A on uppercase. A pair of parentheses. And inside my pair of parentheses, I have basically two choices. The first one is to not write anything, to not write any parameters. So this means when I will call this method, I will not provide anything inside it. I can just call it and I'm good to go. In this case, I choose to show you that I can write some parameters and I got to give the type, the variable I'm going to provide, and a name for my variable. By the way, this inside the parentheses and the type or not of return will be called the signature. All right, the signature is used by Java to differentiate methods. In this example, this is a method name and what's inside the parentheses, all right? Not the return type, sorry. This is a name and what's inside the parentheses, so the parameters. I got to write a pair of curly braces, and when I will call my method, what's inside this block of code will be executed. In this case, this method is pretty simple. Its name is getAge. I will provide in it an int that I'm calling age. By the way, I could have called it tt, and this has nothing to do with the name of the variable you're going to give to your method when you are going to call it. This is really important to understand it. The goal of this name is to make a connection with inside the method, all right? We will see it later, because as usual in Java, things are not easy and you will have to use it and to practice again and again. Anyway, so I'm going to call this method getAge. I will give inside my parentheses the variable of type int or an expression which is an int, which is pretty much the same. And this method will return, in this case, what I actually gave as a parameter. This is pretty weird, but it was the simplest example I found for you. And I'm saying the type of the return, all right? So in the main method, we are going to call our method getAge. As you can see, I'm declaring a variable of type int, calling it age, and I'm writing 5 inside it. I'm declaring a second variable of type int called y, and I'm calling getAge. In IntelliJ, this is pretty comfortable because when you are clicking on getAge, look, it is showing you which method you are going to use. I'm providing an int, a variable of type int, or an expression of type int, which is the case here. I'm writing white. White is an int. Okay, so imagine I'm I'm writing 5. 5 is an int. So 5 will be catched here, then returned as an int. And it is exactly what my method is doing. And so when I'm writing 5 here, this expression will return me age, which is 5. And I'm using it to initialize my variable y. And I'm doing an output to show you that I got what I expected from my method. It will be the case, right? I could do this also to make the thing simple. If I'm doing only this, as you can see, I'm doing an output and I'm calling my method getAge. And I'm giving an int inside my pair of parentheses. This expression, as you know now, my method is going to return an int. And the int is indeed what I give inside the parentheses. So I will have 5 in return, and this is what is happening. Let's change a bit the behavior of my method. As you can see, I changed this expression, sorry, and I'm doing 5, it will catch 5 plus 5 and it will return it. I can also, in a method, have several parameters, all right? So let's do it. As you can see, I changed the signature of my method getAge because now it needs 2 parameters, an int called age and a float called temperature. So if I'm not respecting the signature, I will have a compilation error. This is really important to understand it. All right? IntelliJ is wisely showing you the name of the variable you gave in the signature of the method, age and temp, by the way. Okay? And another thing is you got to keep the sequence the same. If I wrote first int age, comma, second float temp, I got to do it in the same sequence. So the age on the left and the temp on the right. Okay. I'm having a compilation error. Do you know why? Look, I provided a float because temp is a float, and IntelliJ is waiting for an int because an int is required because in the return type I wrote in. So to solve this issue, I could do this, or make sure here I am having a float. All right. Let's do an example without anything return. As you can see, my method now is not returning anything. It's not returning anything. It's just doing an output of temp. Okay? But you have to keep your mind open, an open mind. I could do this. This is not a compilation error. Of course, my method is useless at this point because I'm providing 2 parameters when one is an int, another is a float, and I'm doing nothing without it. I'm doing just an output saying hello world. It's still working. But by the way, IntelliJ is wisely telling you, look, age and temp are gray. And in this case, look, it says safe delete age parameter. Age is never used. This little guy is smart. Okay? So I will end this lecture because I think it's enough for now. I highly recommend you to play with it. Do some methods outside your main method. Try it with void. Give a name to your method. Put parameters, write parameters, or with no parameters also. Write piece of code inside it, call your method in the main method, make sure you're writing it public static, and I will catch you in the next lecture.